Hi, this is Ric Fierabracci. I'm a bass player in Los Angeles, California, and you're watching Innerviewworld.com. I was 14, kind of a late starter.
What music were you listening to at the time that made the bass stand out?
You know, I was listening to a friend of mine's high school band, and the bass player was really good in the band, and I just sort of kind of gravitated towards that. He was sort of the guru of the neighborhood also. He, you know, spun all the records, and he was kind of like the neighborhood DJ. We'd go up to his room on the second floor, and he'd have all these great records to listen to, and Miles Davis, and all, you know, all the stuff. He was kind of like the audiophile, and you know, just kind of got into it by, you know, he played really cool stuff, and it was always like the bass lines was you know, it always sounded great in his room. He had really good speakers, so I kind of just gravitated towards that, listening to John Paul Jones and Led Zeppelin and The Who and all the Miles Davis stuff, of course, and Yes, all that stuff. He played all that stuff. That's what turned me onto the bass.
Let's talk about Hemispheres.
Alrighty.
Who's on it with you, and what was the factor behind your decision to play with them?
Well, what happened is I was in Australia actually playing with Virgil Donati, supporting a record called On the Verge, Serious Young Insects, and we went down there and played. And I really wanted to go down there to meet Phil Tercio, the keyboard player that played on that record. I played on the record also, but I flew my tracks in. I wasn't in the same room with everybody because most of the guys were in Australia. So I went down there and I hit it off with Phil, and I wanted him to play on my solo record, and he wanted me to play on his solo record. So we said, you know what, why don't we just do a band together? I came up with the name Hemispheres because he was in the southern hemisphere and I was in the northern hemisphere. So I thought, nah, that's kind of a cool thing. So we put a bunch of tunes together. We each wrote 6 or 7 tunes each, and then we just picked the ones that we thought were going to be best for the record. And I asked, at the time I was living in New York, I asked Joel Rosenblatt to play on it because I was playing a lot with him in different bands, and I thought he would do a great job. And he recorded the tracks, and when it was time to pay him, he said, don't pay me, I really want to be part of this project. Is there some way I could be part of it? And I talked to Phil, and we said, yeah, of course, you know, that's great. You know, I mean, we always like being, I always like to be in a band rather than, but it's hard to get people to commit a lot of times, so it's just easier to do the record and do it that way. But I much rather have everybody into it with their heart and soul, other than just worrying about what they're going to get paid. So that's how it kind of got started, and then we just hired different sax players, and you know, friends of ours that we really liked their playing, and Christian Howes is on it, a great violin player. Played with him with Bill Evans, a couple tours we did, and just a fantastic violin player. And Bob Shepard's on it, and Eric Marienthal, and Bill Evans is on it as well. So it's just a concoction, just a bunch of guys getting together and trying to make some music. I don't know. For me, I'm kind of like a jazzer at heart. You know, I play a lot of rock and different things, but I'm not to use the wrong word here. Jazz. I mean improviser. So to me, what I like, what I gravitate towards is stuff where there's some chord changes you can play over, and you can have a conversation between the musicians. So like the least challenging thing, or I wouldn't say challenging, I guess. I mean, anything can be challenging. You play Mary Had of the Lamb at 400 beats per minute, and that's going to be challenging, but to me, I like having a conversation, just like an interview like this. I hate interviews that are emailed to me. I'd rather have a conversation because usually an answer that I have will lead to another question, and it's the same thing with music. You know, you play off of someone else. You know, I'm listening to the drummer and always putting a fill there, so I'm not going to fill there, and maybe I'll catch the second part of the fill. You know, or a keyboard player's playing and he's altering the dominant there. Okay, I'm going to do this here. You know, so that's kind of it's kind of like you're playing chess. You know, or not chess, but you're dancing with someone else or a bunch of people, and that So that's the most challenging for me. That's what I really like. As far as what's really difficult, you know, I mean, if you called me to do an orchestral date on bass and I had to do a bunch of bowing, I would probably not take that gig because I don't bow very well. So in that case, you know, I'm more of an electric player and I play some upright. So.
Rick, if you weren't playing music, what would you be doing?
Oh wow, I don't know. That's tough. Never thought about that. Probably be working with wood, you know, making really cool furniture or something. You know, some kind of artistic thing.
Outside of music?
I mean, it would be in the arts.
Hobby, but what
I mean,
is...
it would be in the arts.
Okay.
I'm an artist. I just like creating things.
Do you have a website or other like YouTube or MySpace?
I have a MySpace and I have a just a regular website as well. RicFierabracci.com, and the MySpace is however that works. Ric Fierabracci at the end.
Most excellent. Thank
Thank
you
you
so much.
Thank you guys so much.